Hi, I'm Kathy from Eclectic Images and thank you for joining me today. Now today we have a lovely wintry day here in Ballarat. It's only 6 degrees and it's the warmest part of the day, so it's not going to get any warmer. We have got the fire going out in our studio, so it's not too bad, but we've already had hail today and some surrounding areas are forecasting snow. So to celebrate a wintry day, I'm going to do a wintry card and use our Snowflakes for the background and the Aussie Alpine village as the foreground. So let's have a look at those stamps. So the Snowflakes is a tin set. You've got a solid one that can be used behind any of the bigger or medium ones. So you've then got two big ones and a medium and a small one. I'm just going to use the medium one today. And our Aussie Alpine village, which is a lovely little snowy scene. And the inks I'll be using is some Versamark for some embossing and some Versafine Clair for our base stamping. And for our background colouring, mainly in the Spa collection range from Catherine Pooler, mainly stone blue and crushed violet, but maybe a little bit of juniper mist as well. I'll wait and see on that one. We'll see how the other two colours are going. So let's see, we're going to do a smooshy background and then also pick up some of that colour for some watercolouring. So we'll start off by stamping the Aussie Alpine village and give that plenty of time to dry. So I'm using the Versafine Clair Morning Mist. I don't want it as strong as the Nocturne, so I'll go with the grey. And it will dry to a waterproof finish, so then I can watercolour over it and it'll stay put. So I've got the stamp already loaded in my block. Now it is a new stamp, so I'm just going to ink it up and stamp it off on my scrap page once, just to get it conditioned and going. Although I don't find my stamps need a lot of conditioning, they seem to stamp pretty good right from the start, which is really nice. So very happy with that and happy with the grey tone, so we'll keep going with that. I did have Twilight, the dark blue, as another option to the grey. I was a bit undecided which one to use, but I think the grey really suits the feel of today. So lining up over a little bit of cotton blend. Now I've cut the cotton blend back so it's only just a little bit bigger than the village itself. So place our stamp down. Nice press over the whole stamp, but also giving it time for that ink to settle into the card. Just peel it off. And we've got a lovely image there. So I'll pop that to one side to dry for a bit, pop my scratch pad to one side, and we're going to create our background. So to do this, actually I'll bring the scratch pad back because I'll do the stamping first. So we're going to stamp and emboss the snowflakes around the edge. So it's only the edge that's going to show. When you look at the foreground piece, you've just got a small border there. So that's the area I'll be concentrating on. So using Versamark, and I'll have my catching paper and white embossing powder standing by. Okay, get the Versamark ink and the stamp and just stamp it randomly around that outer border area. So I'll use the stamp I was going to say in different ways. That sounds a bit vague. So sometimes I'll have just a couple of fronds coming onto the card. Sometimes I'll have the fronds coming on, have it mostly stamped on the card, just so that when we're looking at that border, we get a little bit of variation in how these fronds look. Now, I might only do half of it and then stop and get the embossing powder on that half. I'm a bit worried the ink might dry if I go all the way around. So let's get some embossing powder on there. Give it a bit of a tap down, a bit of a tap on the back. That's pretty cool. Okay, I better stop and heat that or else I'll end up... Oh, no, we'll just keep going. I won't crash into it. Famous last words. But I can now see where I've been So lifting it up carefully so that I don't touch where I've actually already put powder onto it. Shake that down right over that edge. I'm going to need a little bit more just on the bottom edge, so I can just scrape that up from there. Tip it over. Now again, I'll get my brush handle, give it a little bit of a tap on the back, and that should take off any excess. I can see I've got a few spots where I've had my fingers, so I may as well just flick those bits off. Okay, then I'll put all this back in the jar. And we're ready to heat. So by doing the embossing powder first, it will resist the inks, but it means that the inks will also pool around the colour, which should create some very interesting effects. This will take a moment to warm up and get happening. There we go. Even the heat gun's saying, hey, it's a bit cold today. So I could easily have done the smooshy background first and then emboss over the top of it, but I feel I'll get more interesting patterns by having the embossing powder for the colours to run amongst and to pool amongst. Is that really bad, Matthew, when I talk over the embossing gun? Oh, that's good. It's a bit boring just watching embossing. Well, you've got a good point there. Embossing is always beautiful. And I must admit, I mean, this will stand out more once we put the colours on, but even just using white on white, or, I mean, this is the Cotton blend is a slightly off-white colour, but even just using white embossing on white card actually is a really nice effect. So even if we didn't do anything else with that, that would look great. But, you know, I can't resist adding a bit of colour, so we're not going to leave it just like that. Okay, so let's get my crushed violet. Now I'm putting these on the side of my glass mat because I want to be able to do my smooshing and then work on this part of the mat without having to clean up the inks until I've used as much of them as I want to. Because I want to paint with them as well, I don't want to have to stop and clean them up. So if I covered my whole mat, I'd have to stop, clean it up, and then put more colours out. This way I can keep using what I've got there. Okay, let's give that a spritz with water. And I'm going to spritz the card as well.
I thought you were just doing it on the side mat so you can stick your elbow.
Oh yeah, that's going to happen for sure. Yeah, there's going to be, you got me there. Okay, let's start laying it in those colours and see what sort of a effect we're getting. See how it runs around the embossing and we're getting some pooling happening there. That's really fun. Okay, let's put some up this end. Smush it around a bit. You know, Matthew knows I just like smushing colour and making a mess. He's over there chuckling away because I'm just puddling.
See, part of the chuckling was that your idea of fun is often slightly different to mine.
Now I don't care what that, see that's quite abrupt lines there, but that bit's going to be covered, so I don't care how that looks. I'm looking at what effects I'm getting around the edges. And that's a nice mix of inks. So let's leave that there. In fact, I'm just going to pop it onto my scratch pad to one side to dry a bit. We'll give it a little encourage with the heat gun. Just to speed things along a bit. All right, we'll let it sit there and do its thing and come back to our lovely little picture. So I'm wanting to grab my water brush And I'm a little bit worried I haven't got enough colour left there. So I might still, even though I was trying to do it separately so I could use the colours, I may have actually used too much of them. I might have to add some more. Actually, I'm not going to use my water brush, I'm going to use my sparkle brush. So your sparkle pen has got a brush end on it like the water brush has, but it's loaded with a sparkly fluid. So as I pick up this colour, it's going to give it a bit of extra shine. So I'll try just painting with what I've got here, but if I feel I need a bit more colour, I can add some more in from the ink pads. So I just want to pick out a bit of colour on the little cottages. I don't want to colour the whole card. Just want to make these cottages just a little bit more interesting. But I do think I need some of the purpley tones in there too. We've lost a bit of that. So let's add a bit of more violet. Pick that up with the sparkle pen. So you can see I'm not being overly fussed about colouring accurately because I actually just want it to be a suggestion of colour in there. And a little bit on the snow, and then that's all I'm actually going to do for the colouring. Matthew's going to go, "What?"
What?
So that's my colouring. It is a little bit subtle for me, but I quite like it. Now it's time to clean up, and of course I haven't got my paper towel next to me, but it's alright, I've got my cleaning cloth so I can just give everything a wipe with that. Okay, now our base card has nearly flattened down, but it's still not quite dry, so let's just give it a bit more encouragement with the heat gun. Sorry about this. I usually find doing a bit of drying from both sides helps to flatten it out. Now, if I was doing this card at home with plenty of time, I would probably, once it's cooled from the heat gun, I would probably lay it down under a pile of books and let it flatten right out. You can also run card that's had a lot of watercolour effects on it, run it through a laminator, but to flatten it out, like ironing it. But that's not going to work because of the embossing powder. That would just smush if we put it through a laminator. But we could pop it under a pile of books. Or we can just smooth it out. Now, let's have a look at whether our card needs anything else. Does it look fine with that soft background? Or do we need a little bit of a border? And I'll tell you what, I think it does need that bit of a border, which is why I had the Juniper Mist on standby, just in case we did need to add something else. So let's just start off with a swipe, and if that's not enough, I've got brushes standing by that I can actually do some shading. But let's just try a swipe first and see if that gives us enough of a border. Now, get that to dry and then lay it on my background and see now if it's standing out enough. Yes, I don't think I need to do any shading. I think just that bit of border is enough, but I think I'd like to see a dark border around this bit of card as well. So let's edge that one with the ink pad as well. You'll notice when I'm doing the edging of them, I don't go straight across. I don't want to give my ink pad paper cuts. So I wipe, I don't know if Matthew can see this in the camera, so I wipe that way. So you're getting ink off the ink pad, but you're not damaging the ink pad by doing it. So swiping across the card. Now the more you lie the pad over, the more ink will come on. The more you have it upright, the more it'll be just on the edge. And of course, what I normally do is I'm doing a lovely little neat edge, and I'll get to one point and do a big smoosh, and then I've got to go back around and smoosh the rest. Now I could come round with a water brush and a bit of the darker ink and actually give the snowflakes some shadows to make them stand out more, but I'm actually just going to leave it really subtle. Oh my goodness, I mustn't be feeling well. I'm doing subtle.
Who are you? I want to be done with Cat.
Yeah. All right, let's move this out of the way and get this one stuck down, because I think that's, and I also think this is enough. Although I might come in and add some glitter on some of the snow. Yeah, Kathy's back. Oops. Hold that down so I can tear the tape up. Rightio. Now if I want to be really good and give myself the best chance of getting this straight, I will not take all the tape off to start with. We'll just do part of the edges, and that way I can position the card . Come on, lift up for me. Okay, so by folding that out at the side, that means I can lay this end that's still got the backing on my card and just have a look at my placement, make sure I've got it straight, make sure my borders are even, and then you push down the edge that you've already taken the backing off. So you push that edge down. Then we can pull those bits out. But before we do that, we do have to just lift this up and get this bit of tape off this end. Otherwise, if we stick the sides down, you can't get to this end bit. So we've just got to get that to play ball and lift off. Of course, it does not want to. That's got it. Okay, so lift that one out. And then we can pull these side bits out. And then just smooth that card down, and our borders should all be straight and even. Okay, now while I'm grabbing that glitter, I'll just move this forward so you can have a look at that on the black background and just have a look at that lovely subtle background. And I might choose a glitter colour. I'll just throw a few things around first. So we could go liquid pearls on the top of the houses, or we could just go a little bit of glitter. Might be liquid pearls because that's what I've got. So a bit of liquid pearls on some of the snowy areas like the trees. Oh, it's going to be really cold, isn't it? It's not going to want to play. Saying, Mum. Now, how much you do of something like this is totally up to you. The card was fine without it, but I find it sometimes just adding that extra bit just finishes it off really nicely. So I'm just giving it a squeeze as I blob it on. I'll do both of the bigger trees, then have a look if I want to do any on the roof lines, whether the trees is enough. So just dabbing it on. Okay, let's have a look at that. Do we want a bit of snow on the rooftops? No, I think I'll just leave it as is. Wow. Okay, there's a really soft, subtle card. And I like it. Whew. Scary thing. Hope you enjoyed watching that one. So, sometimes subtle can be fun. Subtle can sometimes be a bit out there. But by using the spar colours, the softer spar colours as the inks, that gave me a soft look right from the start. If I'd used stronger inks, I could have made that background much stronger. It's totally up to you. Both effects would have been really good, but I was looking for the subtle today. Okay, so I hope you really enjoyed that one, and I hope you enjoy having a play with our Snowflake set and the Aussie Alpine Village, because it's just a gorgeous little stamp. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.